Sup guys, welcome back. Today is Sunday, so it's time for Church of Minecraft. I'm going to put on all my clothes so I'm dressed up, and I am going to go and head to church. So this is my first church service in the new church that I have just built, and you can see it is quite a lot less fancy than my old one. Just for comparison, look at my old one. And here's where I am now. Obviously, this is much less of a good situation for me. Now, some context. In my story, the Empire of Iapeta drove me from my sanctuary, so I had to leave everything, including my church, and go into hiding. So I'm hiding under the sea, and I built this church and a little house under the sea. Now, obviously, as most of you probably know, these stories are staged, they're scripted, this is not actually happening. But, as I always say, fiction is very good to illustrate things that are not fictional at all. So, let me explain. Obviously, not many of us have been chased from our house by an evil empire, at least most of us have not, but a lot of us have gone through things where we have lost everything unexpectedly. Maybe not everything, but we lost something very important to us. You know, the sanctuary was very important to me. Having my old church was very important to me. And now, my sanctuary was pretty darn cool, and now I have to live there. So yeah, it's a lot less of a good situation. Now, I can remember a time when something similar happened in real life. There have been times when I've had lots of friends, and then due to social drama, had none at all. And something like that has probably happened to all of us. And it sucked. But something did happen through that. You know, when I was unable to depend on my friends for happiness, or my good looks, because, you know, I was never good looking to begin with, but I had really bad acne. I had so much acne, my face looked almost as red as my Minecraft character. I learned to depend entirely on God for my meaning, because I didn't have anything else. So, the Bible never says that suffering is good. At all. It's not. It's bad. God does not want us to suffer, but at the same time, good can come from it. It's not good, but good can come from it. The Apostle Paul, in Romans 5, tells us to rejoice in suffering. Now, it's easy to misinterpret that. It doesn't mean we're rejoicing because we're suffering. We're not masochists. It also doesn't mean, it really doesn't mean, this is important, put on a smiling face while you're suffering and just deal with it. We're not stoics either. What it does mean is understand that though your suffering is bad, it can purify your heart because it can teach you to depend on Christ for your happiness and nothing else. One of my favorite pastors and theologians, Dr. Tim Keller, has said that when Christ is all you have, you'll realize that Christ is all you need. Now, a lot of us say, you know, yeah, I care about God, but I care about a lot of other things too. It's not that you can't care about other things, but Christ is the only thing in your life that will last forever. And Christ needs to come first. Of course, Christ is not the only thing in our life that matters, but obviously, you know, your job, your kids matter somewhat, but Christ needs to matter first before anything else. Now, Psalm 16:2 says, "Lord, you are my only good thing. Apart from you, I have no good thing." Now, that doesn't mean everything in my life is bad except for God, but it means that without God, nothing can be good. Nothing matters if you don't have God. So now, suffering is really painful. You know, I wish I could have my sanctuary, and I wish I could have a fancier church too. But you know, maybe it's a lesson for me to depend on God more and trust less in all the fancy things that I have. Of course, you know, this is not real. I could always get my sanctuary back, but in real life, you know, when I lost all my friends, I learned that the approval of God mattered a lot more, or actually infinitely more, than the approval of any of my friends. It's not that I was forcing myself to be happy through that time, but it did help me trust God more. Now, why is it so important to put your trust in God and not everything else? Why can't you just enjoy other things? You can enjoy other things, but if you enjoy them and if you depend on them more than God, that's called idolatry. It's breaking the second commandment. So, as the famous reformer John Calvin said, our hearts are perpetual factories of idols. Now, and as Tim Keller once again said, idolatry is not liking something. Idolatry is turning a good thing into an ultimate thing. In other words, idolatry is taking something that's good and saying, I need that thing to be happy. And for different people, that's different things. For some people, it's romance, saying, I need to have a romantic relationship. If I don't have a good one, I won't be happy. I must have that to be happy. Or for other people, it might be a job. I need to have a good, meaningful career. If I don't, I won't be happy. And for some people, it's comfort and safety. I need to have that, or else I cannot enjoy my life. And for some people, it's all of them. Now, and when you don't get that thing, you feel completely crushed, and you don't even want to go on living, because that's your reason for living, and if you don't have that, why should you keep going on? So, that's what idolatry is, and all of us do that to some extent. Now, God disciplines those whom he loves, it says in the Bible. So sometimes, not always, but sometimes when we're going through a season of suffering, it's because God sees we're depending too much on certain things for happiness, so he takes it away just for a while until we can learn to depend on him. That's not always how it happens. There's not always a reason well, there is always a reason, but we don't always know the reason for when we're suffering. But I'm pretty sure that in my case, that was the reason. I was depending too much on my social life for happiness, so God took it away. I was making my social life into an idol. Now, before I go, Jesus tells a parable about how one of the ways we can know if our faith is really genuine. Now, he tells the parable of the sower. The parable of the sower it's a story about a man who scatters seeds everywhere along the path. Now, some fall on rocks and do not sprout at all. Some fall on shallow soil and sprout up quickly, but then when the storms come, are washed away. And some fall on deep, good, rich soil, and those spring up and they produce a lot more crops. Now, Jesus says that represents all people, all kinds of people. Some people, when they hear the good news, the gospel, they don't respond at all, and they're like when the seeds fall in the rocky soil. Some people, when they hear the gospel, are very into it for a short time, but when the storms of life come, just like the seeds that fell on the shallow soil, they abandon their faith. They lose their faith when things get hard. But the people who are truly blessed, the people who are truly saved, are the people who, like the people where the seeds fall in deep, rich soil, that have a faith strong enough to endure hardships. And the people that endure to the end, are going to be truly saved. Now, so when you're in a season of suffering, could be a test. Will you keep your faith all through that? And not only is it a test to see if your faith is genuine, it also strengthens your faith. As 1 Peter 1:7 says, it's sort of like the way gold is purified by putting it in a fire. Our faith, our hearts can be purified through seasons of suffering. Once again, the suffering itself is not good, but what comes out of it can be good if we put our trust in Christ. If we do not, then whatever faith we do have could be lost altogether. So, finally, what's happening to me in this Minecraft story, represents what happens to all of us at some point. We lose something we really care about. But it's important that we use that as an opportunity to put our trust in Christ, and not in whatever we lost. God bless you and have a great week.